Good evening. If you're in the back, if you'd make your way on in, we'll get started. And so, let me prepare my sore throat here. There we go. Perfect. So we started a new series talking about God's promises, and we're just going to spend, maybe 4 or 5 weeks just talking about some of God's big promises in the Bible. Because so much of the Christian life is responding to what God says in faith. Everything about how we, even just the mundane things. Okay, the way we handle our money is because we trust what God says about certain things and about how He'll provide and how we steward things. The way we respond to our spouse, the way we respond to our children is because God has made certain promises. The way we endure hardship, the way we love one another is all because God has promised things. And then it's our job to walk in faith in what God says while we wait for Him to work everything out. Okay? So this is like sometimes we talk about God's promises and it sort of sounds like squishy, like flowery. I don't know what word I want, but this idea that it's kind of pie in the sky. We kind of hope so, wish so. That's not what we mean when we talk about God's promises. It's like this is just at the heart of what it means to be a Christian, is to believe what God has said and to believe what God has promised for the future and then act on that and to walk in that. And so I hope all this is something that at the end of the day encourages us and strengthens us as we follow the Lord. So last week, the promise was, God is always with me, so I don't need to be afraid. Hebrews 13, 5 and 6 says, "For He Himself has said, I will never desert you, nor will I ever forsake you. So that we can confidently say, the Lord is my helper, I will not be afraid. What can man do to me?" We also looked at Romans 8. Who will separate us from the love of God? No one can. So God is always with me. I don't need to be afraid. I can live opposing fear because I can believe God's promises. God is a promiser by nature. God's promises, the Bible says, are great and precious, and they are always true. So with that in mind, the promise that we want to look at this week is that God is in control, so I don't need to doubt. Okay? God is always with me. I don't need to fear. God is in control, so I don't need to doubt. Looking again at Hebrews 6, kind of where we left off last week, Hebrews 6, and we're going to, actually, if you'd like to turn ahead, we're going to be in Proverbs tonight, Proverbs 3. But Hebrews 6 says, "We desire that each one of you show the same diligence so as to realize the full assurance of hope until the end, so that you will not be sluggish, but be imitators of those who through faith and patience inherit the promises. For when God made the promise to Abraham, since He could swear by no one greater, He swore by Himself." Okay? God doesn't want us to quit. He doesn't want us to be lazy in our walk with Him, the Bible says, and He wants us to press on, trusting what He said as we wait for God to work out His plan, as we wait to inherit those promises. Now, God gives a couple different kinds of promises. He gives conditional promises and He gives unconditional promises. We mentioned Abraham last week, and this passage mentions it. So when God makes the Abrahamic covenant, is it a conditional promise or an unconditional promise? Unconditional. How do we know? Right. He makes the promise. He fulfills the covenant. What did He ask Abraham to do in the covenant when he made it? All these animals get separated out, and then it says that God, like a burning furnace, passes through those animals alone. What did He ask of Abraham? Nothing. Yeah. Abraham was asleep. So, and that's why it says, because he could swear by no one greater, he swears by himself. Again, in Hebrews 6, it says, men swear by one greater than themselves, and with them an oath is given as a confirmation that ends every dispute. So if we have some kind of disagreement, I can say, well, because of this, I swear on this, you can trust me, I swear on my mom's grave, all that nonsense. In the same way, God, desiring even more to show to the heirs of the promise the unchangeableness of his purpose, interposed with an oath, so that by two unchangeable things, okay, God has a purpose, and he makes an oath of what he's going to do. He makes a promise about what he's going to do, and he has a purpose in mind. Because of those two things are unchanging, then it is impossible for God to lie. We who have taken refuge would have strong encouragement to take hold of the hope set before us. Okay? So with that in mind, let's look at what we want to talk about tonight is how we can not doubt and how we can trust God that he's in control. Let's look at Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. Gene, this is one of your favorite verses. I was going to say, oh, wow. Thank you. I love to hear about this. Okay. So, Proverbs 3, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all of your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make your paths straight. So, trust in the Lord with all your heart is this exhortation not to doubt, right? And every time we doubt what God has said, that's not good for us. That's unhealthy for us. It's destructive for us because it leads us to put our trust in something inferior to God, my own opinion, someone else's opinion. But anytime we trust something else other than what God has said, it puts us in a lesser position, right? If we doubt, that can make us fear. That can make us kind of waffle back and forth, in the ups and downs of life. If we're not anchored to what God has said, we can kind of flip-flop and we can be all juiced about something one day and then sure it's going to fail the next day. And that happens, when we take our eyes off the Lord. So trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. So how is it that we trust in the Lord with all of our heart? Okay. Now, before you answer, you're going to be tempted to use some really churchy language here. Don't do that. Practically speaking, how is it that we can trust in the Lord with our whole heart?
I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, I didn't know whether to respect before church or after church. I said, I make that as a prayer. Help me trust in with all my heart and on my ways. Could not just do it. It worked out wonderful. I mean, I might have been a minute late or something. That's pretty good for me. And it's like he just dovetailed things together. And I'm glad that he corrected me.
So you would say that you can pray for guidance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Trust in everything.
How you mean, Bob?
Well, trust him in all things. Mainly.
Small, little, big.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we make trusting in God the pattern of our life and the whole direction of our life, rather than just I make thousands of decisions a day, and then once a week when I get to the big ones, then I bring God in. Okay. What else? So when we say that we want to trust in the Lord, how do I do that? Okay. What does that look like?
Oh, you need a bill paid, or you got to use the transfer, or you're just having a really rough day with the kids, or basic go wrong.
Okay.
It's like, okay, Lord, I need you. I need your help right now.
Okay.
I need your guidance.
Kristen.
As a worry
to figure out, okay, what is God doing in this?
Okay. Okay, hold on.
Trust no matter the outcome of something or what it'll look like. So either way, any of the scenarios that he's going to come through with his promises, and that even if it doesn't work out your way, he says he's going to care for us. He says he's going to sustain us. He says he's going to comfort us. And he will do those things no matter what it looks like to us.
Okay, so I can trust God in prayer. I want to trust God in all things. I want to trust God when they're difficult. I want to trust God even if I'm not certain how things are going to be. I want to trust God even if they don't turn out the way that I want. I'll get to you, Hung. Let me get Sarah first.
I was just thinking you have to not trust yourself or the world or around first. Like you have to be bigger than yourself or politics.
That might be where I'm going next. What was you going to say?
Say everything like Jesus, this to us, your will be done.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, to be content what he works out, even if I don't know what he's going to work out.
Like sometimes our feelings get
Yeah, we sure do.
our emotions
Okay.
control.
Yeah, emotions aren't bad, but they are a terrible driver of things. So it's fine to have feelings in the back seat. It's real bad to have feelings in the front seat.
Well, for me, finding the way to trust him, I oftentimes look behind me at how faithful he's been before. That helps me. Hey, I've been in this situation before, God was there.
Yeah.
Me again.
You know who else does that? Like every psalmist. All of them are like, well, God, I don't know what you're doing. How come my enemies are doing this? And why is this so hard? But I remember, and then they start to recite a litany of things of how God has been faithful. So, yeah. So one of the all those things are true. Where he goes in this text is, I want to trust in the Lord with all my heart. I don't need to doubt. I want to trust him. And one of the ways I do that is to not rely on my own understanding. Now, that doesn't mean if you've learned lessons, you've got to kick all those out the door. Like, God has spent a lot of time on you, teaching you things. Okay? And so it's okay to realize, hey, I've learned some life lessons. I've learned some hard truths. I want to use wisdom and use those hard-fought lessons. But I don't rely on those things, okay? That's not my kind of end-all, be-all to where I go. What I rely on is God's promises, things that God has said. And so what does that look like? How do I keep from relying on my own understanding instead of God's promises? And I think you guys have already kind of either said it explicitly or hinted at it, that in every choice and in every decision, I need to acknowledge God. And a lot of it maybe comes down to how I prioritize things. Okay? If I'm worried about a decision, and what I'm most worried about is how it will affect me, and is this going to make me look bad, or is it going to make me look good, or like all the ways I can be all about me, then I would say the primary concern in all of our decisions is, will it honor God? Will this glorify him? Will this make God look good? Will this expand God's fame? And so I don't want to just get through life. I want to charge through life as someone who makes much of God and magnifies him. And so when I'm making choices, if I'm primarily concerned with honoring God, I think that's a big way to, that's one big way to not rely on my own understanding, okay? But to honor him in all things. So what Proverbs has said here is that, well, we trust God with all of our heart, Okay? We don't merely rely on ourselves. In all my ways, acknowledge him, it says. So in difficulty and whatever it is, like I am acknowledging God. I want God to be the priority here. He's the one I want to make most of. And then it says, he will what? If I'm trusting in the Lord with all my heart, I'm not leaning on my own understanding. If I'm really acknowledging him, he will, he will direct my paths. He will make my ways straight. God will guide me. So patient trust in God works its way out in God working in me. So if I trust God and I don't doubt, if I don't rely on myself, if I honor him, then God will make my paths straight. Because, and this is where we'll end tonight, because God is sovereign, okay? Because God is in control. And this is just huge, okay? We have to appreciate that God rules the universe with his feet up, right? He's not sweating all the things that happen in the world. Like, oh man, I don't know what Eric's going to do. I hope he works this out. Okay? God knew before the creation of the world everything that would happen, what he would do in response to it. Before God created a thing, he knew that he would send Jesus to the cross. God is sovereign over what he does. Therefore, he never overpromises. You ever do that where you promise somebody and then realize, oh, I told 3 people I would be at this thing at Wednesday at 7 o'clock in 3 different places. I overcommitted. I overpromised. Oh, I said I would donate this. I didn't realize I had to pay this week, and I had to pay that this week, and now I'm out of money. Okay, there's 100 million ways we can overpromise, but God is never surprised by it. There's no details he forgot. There's no occurrence that happens where he's caught off guard. There's no limit to his resources. Okay? So does God ever overpromise? It's an easy one. No. Does God ever underdeliver? No. Okay? Why? Because he's sovereign. He rules and reigns the universe. He has dominion over all things. He has authority over all things. He has power over all things. So God is in complete control. There's a passage in Acts 17. It's one of my favorite ones for pointing this out, where Paul is on Mars Hill, right? And there's the people he's talking to are idolaters. They've made a gazillion idols all over the land. And so he wants to explain to them, well, this is what, there's an idol here to the unknown God. So you've already admitted to me that there's a God you don't know. Okay, so that God that you have already admitted that you don't know, let me tell you what he's like. Acts 17, verse 24, the God who made the world and all the things in it, since he is Lord of heaven and earth. Okay? So the first thing you know is he is the Lord. He is the King. He is the sovereign over all things. Everything you see, all the stuff you don't see. He doesn't dwell in temples made with hands, nor is he served by human hands as though he needed anything. Since he himself gives to all people life and breath and all things, God doesn't need stuff from you. He's not waiting for you to provide him with something so he can be satisfied. Okay? Instead, it's God that gives things. God didn't create people because he needed something. He creates people because he is an overabundance of love and wisdom and power and goodness. Verse 26, he made from one man every nation of mankind to live all on the face of the earth, having determined their appointed times and the boundaries of their habitation, so that they would seek God, if perhaps they might grope for him and find them, for he is not very far from each one of us. Not only is he sovereign over the things that he makes, he's sovereign over where he places people. Okay? Not only in your place, but also in the time. Okay? So if you were born in Byesville in 1971, guess what? It's because the way God planned on making you, that is the perfect place and time for you to seek him and find him. Why? Because he's sovereign over all these details. For in him we live and move and we exist. Even some of your own poets have said, for we are also his children, being then the children of God. We ought not to think of the divine nature as like gold or silver or an image formed by the art and thought of man. Therefore, having overlooked this time of ignorance, God is now declaring to men that all people everywhere should repent, because he has fixed a day in which he will judge the world in righteousness through a man whom he has appointed, having furnished proof to all men by raising him from the dead. Okay? So God is sovereign over what he's created. He's sovereign over you. He's sovereign over the places that he's put you, the time that he's put you in. He's sovereign over a day of judgment, a day that God is going to bring all this to a close, a day that he's going to judge the quick and the dead. He's sovereign over Jesus entering the world to die for people, and he's sovereign over his resurrection from the dead. God rules and reigns over all these things. So God is not surprised by sin. God is not surprised by rebellion. God is not surprised by world events. He's in control. And because he's in control, I can trust him. Because I can trust him, I don't have to doubt. Okay? That is a powerful promise, especially in the times in which we live. Okay? Hebrews 6:19, this hope we have is an anchor of the soul, a hope both sure and steadfast, and one which enters within the veil. We have hope. Why? Okay? Because God is eternally reliable, because his promises are good. He doesn't overpromise, because he's going to deliver every time. Okay? Because he's already in control of things. Okay? I think it's, I don't remember if R.C. Sproul was quoting someone else or it's just something he said, but he said, in all the universe, there's not one rogue molecule. There's not one thing that operates outside of God's knowledge and control and authority. And so that is a powerful promise that he's in control, so I don't need to doubt. Do we have any questions, comments, thoughts? Yep, never early, never late. Yeah, it's a real bummer that this all-powerful, sovereign God of the universe doesn't operate on my timetable. I don't know why he doesn't do that.
I just heard this in like the last month.
Mm-hmm.
Easy to look at. But actually, however
Yeah.
that work, God still applied these promises.
Yeah.
God doesn't promise pain for you.
Right.
Bad things happen, turn out the way we envision.
Yeah. He never promises it'll be easy, but he does promise that it's worth it. Big difference, but it's important. Okay. And all those Christians that were beheaded, 3 seconds later, they woke up to realize God's promises are always true, that God always delivers abundantly more than they thought or imagined. Okay. Tyler and I was talking the other night about this whole memorial for Charlie Kirk. And that still shakes me up thinking about that whole situation and his wife and his little daughters. I'm really affected by it. But the thing I read said that there's something like there's been 100 million people that have watched his memorial service so far. They're estimating that it is the most comprehensive, broadest gospel proclamation in history. So, does our God take wicked plans and do amazing things with them? Yes, he does. Okay? Because he delivers. He always delivers. Let me share a couple things that are happening with you.